What's up, y'all, and welcome back to the Elevated Mind. So today I want to welcome my next guest, and I have a special guest, a very special guest, dear to me, very, very much placed in the center of my heart because that's my sister. But also, too, I want you all to be able to meet her, hear her, and be able to gain some insight of what she also has to bring to the table. And with welcoming my next guest, I want to introduce you to Miss Germoni McCray. So I know that you all see her lovely face now, but with you all seeing her lovely face, there are a few things that I want you all to know about her, which is she is a lover of all things beauty. She loves empowering and influencing women to make them feel their best. She's a digital content creator of Pretty Incorporated on YouTube and Instagram. She also emphasizes the quote, go in pursuit of what sets your soul on fire, right? And I absolutely love that because that's what you need to be doing. Setting somebody's soul on fire. So I want to welcome you, Miss Germoni McCray.
Thank you. I'm so
Give her a round
excited.
of applause.
Yes, I'm
Um,
excited.
yes, I'm so glad that you're on the podcast as my guest, first guest, especially because um, I feel like we
Listen,
have
this is
so
so
many
this is
things
full
that
circle for us. I remember we talked about this last year, so I'm just really excited to see it go. It's happening, which is great.
it's so crazy, right? Because it's so crazy that we have a lot of commonalities. And so I met Germany when we were in college. We went to Murray State University.
Yes.
And with us going to school at Murray State, one thing we definitely did was connect on a lot of commonalities. So things such as like the beauty industry, social media influencing, just the encouragement and the empowerment of uplifting women, um, and also too most importantly for me is just our love for our spiritual journeys, y'all. Like I can't even explain it, which I feel like that is what connects me to Germ, and I call her Germ by the way for short. So
Yes.
that's what connects me to Germ is because not only do we share those other worldly things as far as beauty and influencing and things like that, but we can connect on a godly level. And I absolutely love that about Germany. And so that's where I feel like our bonds really tie together tight. Because
Yeah.
when it's God, it's deeper than deep. And
Yeah.
so we're here. We
Yes.
are here. And so today, I just want to talk to my sis just to, get a feel of, what it comes to when we're discussing, just rediscovering ourselves. And so as crazy as it may sound, when it comes to like rediscovering ourselves, I know personally I've had to do it for myself. But the craziest thing is I feel like our twines intertwined because she's also had to do it as well on at the same time, around the same time, if not the same time. And so today I want just to hear her just to share, like her journey, her intake, her outlook on everything with rediscovering self. So I'm welcoming to my podcast, Miss Germoni McCray.
Thank you.
Welcome, Germ.
Yes, I'm excited. Yes, we got a lot to cover and rediscovering what it's a that right there in itself. It's a lot. It is a whole lot, and I learned just even now. You go through cycles and you go through a lot of different phases, and you think you know yourself, and then you don't know yourself, and then it's just a repeated thing of trying to change with time and grow and trying to really figure out life. And I just turned 30 in January, even though that's not really nothing but a
Yes,
number at this point. But
congratulations on 30. You hit the
you
30
know,
club, honey.
woo, woo, right, right. I was like, I couldn't do anything for my birthday. The weather, January birthday, you can't really do much. You never know the weather. So I really had to sit back and be grateful to say I made it another year, which was crazy. So it was just like
For
to
sure.
think like, where did the time go? To be 30, it's like, yeah, I know it's a number, but I'm like, I was just 18. I was just 21. And it was like I was just 25.
Listen,
Man, I'm
it's
like,
yes,
time
yes.
waits for nobody.
What you said, time definitely doesn't wait for anybody. And I do feel like once you've reached those milestones too, it's just like you can really reflect and look back like, man, like so much has happened. You can also too sit back and like just determine your own growth as far as like what's life been for you because I feel like this is a lifestyle podcast. This is just
Yeah.
like a journey for not only us, but for all of us. And it's just like everybody has their own battles. Everybody has to face their own challenges each and every day. But I think the biggest thing is how are you handling that? How are you taking it away to make it yours at the end of the
Yep.
day? Like writing your story, like how are you writing it?
Yeah, it's that when writing your own story, I see that quote all the time to say create your dream life, is and I had to really learn life. You don't allow life to take you by the hands. You need to learn how to take life by its hands. Or if not, life gonna
Mm-hmm.
give you a whooping that you don't really want. And so I felt like at a time in life, I was just going with the flow of life. I was letting life happen to me, thinking that I was
Mm-hmm.
supposed to allow it to be that way when in actuality it wasn't. Had I realized that I needed to grab life by its horns and take on, I think I would be at a different place in life. But again, life circumstances and situations, you have to, I guess, let life take you through. And then when you realize, like, I need to grab life and really go, because if not, I'm gonna be in the same place, stuck in the same place, not moving forward.
Girl,
Because I think that life is
yes.
just I'm supposed to move with the flow of life instead of me saying, you know what, this is not what I want. I can't allow life to take me out. I gotta take life out before it takes me.
Absolutely. And I mean, I can't do nothing but 100% agree with you on that.
Yeah.
And so, with that, I definitely want to dive into today's topic, which is just, like rediscovering self. And so I think, with the both of us kind of sharing not necessarily similar stories, but maybe like stories to a certain extent. I definitely could see the growth within my friend as far as reaching and discovering and learning new heights and unlearning and new and relearning, and that's a journey in itself, right? So with that, I definitely have some things to share. I'm sure along with Germ, she has some things to share. And so I think my first question to Germ would be, like, when did you discover self, or like when did you discover finding yourself? Within this whole life journey, when did that take place for you?
Oh, I'm going to say that it happened. It's not like I knew I needed to make a change, but it really hit home for me maybe 2 or 3 years ago, where I realized, life situations happened to me, things in my life changed drastically. And there was a lot of things that I was like, I can no longer be a people pleasing person. I cannot allow people to feel like they have control over my life. I couldn't allow myself to be in a place where people, I was doing things for other people. And I felt like I had to realize, okay, let's look back at years. And I had to go all the way back to when I was in college, getting ready to go to college. I went to school because that's what people told me to. That was what my mom had in mind for me. That is what my cousins had in mind. That always told me, you got to go to school, you got to get an education. And so it was like I lived my life for people, and I didn't live it for Germany. Had I known that, so many things would have went differently in my life. And so once I realized that about 2 or 3 years ago, it was like, okay, now it's time to do me, and it's time to do what I want and not what other people expect me to have done. It was the thing of trying to be looked at as a golden child in my family, to make my mom proud, to do things differently than my siblings. And so it was like I had that weight on top of, I wasn't allowed to really go into the areas of life that really gave me that fire that I needed to be like, man, I know who I am. I know where I stand. And it took things in my life happening for me to realize this is where I belong. This is not, I did all these other things because that was safe. I'm not a safe person. If I really look at myself, I don't live my life in a safe way. I don't like to be safe. I try to step out as much as I can, even with the fear that I have. And so just life lessons brought me to that place of rediscovering and really saying, I know who I am. I know where I belong. I know where the fire in me lies. And that came with beauty. That came with the fact that I could give my voice. I had something to say to women. I felt like I had power within myself, and it was not allowing to be second guessing the things that I had to say. It was, I know who I am. I know that, and I have no one is going to ever try to tell me I don't know. Even in the times where I feel my weakest, I still try to have those moments where I need to bring myself back up. And so I know how to do that. It takes a while, but in the sense of, I realized you have to really be patient with yourself and rediscovering who you are, because once you discover who you are, you discover some things that you may not like about yourself, and it could be ugly and it could be good things. And you have to say, you know what, I'm going to get rid of those ugly things and I'm going to try to push those to the side, and I'm going to try to go for the good things. But it's not a bad thing. It's just that you have to go through that in order to see who you really are, because those things that were ugly were the things that hindered who you were. And for me, I say they were things that hindered me from actually being my true self.
Girl, what you said. And so I feel like even going off of you with that, just also to knowing your real identity and not going off of what others say that you should become or what others should expect of you. Because I think a lot of times we often in our birth state and like in our natural state, before we even rediscover self, I just feel like, there's oftentimes where a lot of people will chatter in our ears, or other things that people um may call us to do, but is that really God's calling for us to do? You know what I'm saying? Like, did I check in with myself? Did I check in with God first to just be like, is this what I really should be doing, or is this something that somebody else told me that I was good at?
Yep.
And so I think, we really got to take a step back, like when it comes to making sure, what influences in our life when it comes to that. And I feel like at some point, everybody walking on this living earth, has to channel or dive deeper into figuring out who you really are. Because I feel like that's a self-discovery that God is allowing us to figure out, not only with him, but also too with yourself. Like, are you taking the steps and actions to want to figure out who you really are? Reach your higher self, which this podcast is about, which I love this topic so much, is because, I had to get to a point to where I had to be this version of Zip, but not the old version of Zip that people knew me years ago. But I had to get to this version of Zip just because I knew that this version was going to be able to inspire and uplift other people in this version of myself. And so I love that. I absolutely do. So
Yeah.
yes, thanks for sharing. And so within that process, I also want to ask, like, how do you feel like your spiritual journey has played a role into like reconnecting with self?
Every time I get that question, I have to ask a lot of people, and I had to ask people, my friend, a special friend of mine, about, what that meant, because people ask you all the time, and I'm like, All I know is I believe in Jesus. Okay, that's what I've
Yes.
known my whole life, and nobody. I don't do all that other extra stuff. Like, oh, that's it. God is who I was told to pray. I was told to do all that. That's all. That's the only thing I know. So I was like, all that other stuff. I just try to block it out because there's so many. You never want to get misconstrued on what it is you're focused on. And so with that,
Mm-hmm.
the word had came anchor. You have to be, that's where I get my help from when I'm low. I need that. I have to either listen to a sermon, or I have to either read something inspiring, or I have to go in my little index card box of scriptures that I've made for myself. That's got tons of things in it when I'm low. And so it holds me, it gives me that courage to say, I know where to go when I'm my weakest. I know how to get there. And so it's like God's word is one of those things where I have to believe that it's true for me. And it's one of those things where it's just like, if God could do it for so many other people, he can do that just the same for me, even
I
though
know
what he
that's
said
right.
is promised to me. And so I have to believe that even in the midst of trouble, because we all have issues and we all go through life struggles, but we have to go through those things in order to get to the blessings that are really for us. So it keeps me just in a place of focus. It keeps me to know where I can come back to. It's my power source. Michael Todd did an episode about, the source, and it was like the sockets. You need to plug in when you don't have nothing else to be recharged. You
Mhm.
know where to go. Use that to help you to get what you need out of life. And so I just use that for anything, and it just gives me the strength I know to say I can make it. Even though it doesn't look like it's gonna happen for me right now, things may not be going the way, it may be slow, just like with the podcast coming. We don't know where this is gonna go for you. All we know is that we taking a step. God said if you give him a little, he'll do a lot. And so we take the little in the action that we do so that he can bless it to be bigger than what we expect it to. We expect it to be big, and we do. And we expect him in return to do that. But he cannot work with anything if you don't believe that. So it's just
Mm-hmm.
about staying in that space with him and just giving him his time as well, because what's important is relationship, and that relationship will get us further in that. And that's based on no religion or anything. God, they always say God wants you and your connection with him. And so it's being in that space with him often and giving him his acknowledgement. I may not pray quickly sometimes, but I sure be like, hey, good morning. And then I start going about the day. But I make sure in the
I
midst
know
of that,
that's
I do
right.
say, I know you here. Okay. Right now I may not have prayed, but throughout the day, it's another thing I've learned to do. It doesn't have to be a whole laid out thing. It could be quick and fast, but to say, hey, when I need you, I'm gonna say it real quick. Hey, come on, help me get my mind together and try to give me something that I need. So it just keeps me grounded, and it keeps me at a place of knowing where to go when I need it and not the world.
I love it. I absolutely love that. And some things that I can definitely add on to is, just, and if y'all see me reading my notes and looking down, it's because I got my notes. Because
Okay,
like
okay.
it's one thing to be impromptu about things, but just to be intentional, because I'm really serious about this, and just to make sure that what I say in my own head, I got to write the vision and make it plain so I can recall it back to somebody else. And
Yeah.
so with that being said, just making sure that your connection spiritually, and like Germ said, just making sure that relationship, y'all. Like, I can't even stress this enough. Like, relationship with God is by far the most important thing I feel like everybody should have. Like, if it's not God, whatever your higher source is, plug in
Mm-hmm.
and plug in deep. Like, because that's the only way that you're going to be able to, you know, um, challenge obstacles. That's the only way that you're going to reach new heights. And so I just feel like over time, once you're able and you learn how to do that, you also can discover like what your sense of purpose is. Like, what's your God given purpose? As I said in episode 2. And so, what is your God given purpose? You'll be able to align a lot more with what that is if you've ever been looking for it, because you've been able to connect to something deeper outside of yourself.
Yeah.
And so also too, just, being very clear. And this is one thing I made sure that I written down was, you also will be able to hear clearly from God, so you will be able to know exactly what he wants from you. Right. And so, making sure that you're on the right path of discovering or rediscovering who you are. Because I just feel like we're all born into the world, and sometimes I feel like God brings us into the world just so we can connect back with him sometimes and rediscover ourselves, who we are through him. And so I think it's just very important. And like I said in episode 2, it's at your own pace. It's at your own journey at your own time. And so, you just got to make sure that you're in a mental space enough to know that you're at that point of life to figure out, like, I want something more outside of myself. And I think once you figured that out, y'all, like I said in the last episode, the game gonna change.
It
And
does.
I'm sure
It
Darren will
really
definitely
does.
be a witness to that, because as long
It
as
does.
we've known each other, y'all, we've been talking about this from day one. And I think that's what connects me so deep with her, is because not only do we have other commonalities, beauty and cliche things, but we honestly have the grace of God. And I feel like for me moving forward in my life, that's the only thing that's gonna keep me moving and walking forward. That's it. That's
Boy,
all.
yeah, it does. I mean, someone asked me. I remember when I came to school. I forgot her name, but she started a Bible study group, and she was like, "When did you ever feel like you knew God?" I said, "God, all I could tell was God been with me my whole life. No, I didn't feel like I never knew anything outside of that. I was introduced to God at a very young age, and for some reason, I've always
Mm-hmm.
felt like there has been something keeping me in a way that I cannot tell anyone, but I just know that that's all I know, that he has been keeping me for forever, and I felt his presence all the time, and it's just
Mm-hmm.
there. It's just something I've always been connected to, with just trying to keep my own like family in that space as well. Especially with growing up my mom, and it was just like always trying to, give her encouragement. Sometimes I wouldn't even know where that would come from. And it was being like feeling like a strong person in my family. And I'm the youngest. And so it was like, I don't know why I have that so much pressure to be like, I feel so guarded for them, in the connection and the glue for my family, but it just made me feel that way. And so it was like, I've always known him. I just have to know him deeper, and it changes over time. It's always a new level with him that he's wanting us to see. And sometimes you have to do that. And in the midst of rediscovering yourself, I had to go on a lot of times I fast, even though I haven't done one good this year. But I know in the past 2-3 years, I have done them, and I've seen so much differently. And in that time, because I really have to like take away social media and take away food, and really just be in a place of surrender, and just really figure out, how can I go forward in that place. And so it's definitely a journey, and it's eye opening a lot of times.
Girl, what you said? Let me tell you something. That's why I was like, listen, my sister Germ gonna be on here speaking. I was like, we finna get on this podcast, preaching on this episode. But I absolutely love it, just because this is what the people need, honey. Only because like everything she said was yes, yes. Like I can't explain it any other way except for that's what the people needs. That's what the people needs to hear. Because it's so much truth into everything you just said. And so, one thing I heard you say was, what was that? You said fasting. You were saying how fasting just kind of helped you with that journey of rediscovering self, because that's something that you took upon yourself, in a spiritual matter, to just dial back a little bit. Like, let me get out my own head. Let me get out of flesh, because that's really what it is. I'm gonna call it out to what it is. And
Yeah.
so like once we dial back a little bit, and really be able to sit down with self, we'll be able to figure out, like, the things that has help us discover who we truly are as our authentic self. And so that was actually leading up to my next question that I was going to ask you, which was, what were some things that kind of help you discover yourself, or rediscover your real identity on that journey?
Oh, definitely that. Really feeling like at times, when you by yourself, and you have nobody. Sometimes we have friends and all of that, but when you wake up every day, you wake up by yourself, and so sometimes it could be a lonely place to feel. And so when there was times where it was like me by myself, and I really had to take me apart and just really like write myself down. I wrote the ugly, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and it was like that.
Yes.
That was like, yo, and that wasn't me. That was a God thing too. It was one of those moments where people say it's a thing where you had those breakdown moments, and I feel like it was one of those for me, to where it was like, God, I'm tired of me. Let's be real. I'm tired of the me that keeps keeping me from where I need to be. What is it that hinders me? And so that was one of them. Really sitting down and really like saying, "This you. Look at you." And so this was what you got to get rid of. Life circumstances again happened to me, and realizing, a lot of, I let my own power be dictated by someone else, and that wasn't what I should have been doing. I had to learn that I could hold my own, and that there was power in my own words and who I am. Just really me just going back, me discovering, I know I wanted to be in the beauty industry, but when I started to really fully do it and see women get out of my chair and feel a different level, it made me be so inspired, and it set me on to see. And then when I got into beauty school and I discovered new things about myself that came naturally, I was like, yo, this is it. This is where I belong. This is who I am. I'm a creative person. I am a person that likes to express themselves. I am an artist. I am one that does not like to, go with the flow of life. I like to be creative. I like to try new things. I like to do different things. And so it was all of those things that have built me. Again, losing weight again for me. I was when I was at my heaviest, I was dealing with that emotion of being heavier and the weight that I did not want on me, to losing weight, to discovering, my love for myself more. The Just to see yourself in a new light is a different thing too. You get to really see, you know, take it. For me, my weight was a big thing. Let me say that, to be honest, of me hiding behind that. And feeling the insecure part of me. And so one of my things was, I got to get it off, because I know this is hindering me in the things that I want to do. And so that was the biggest thing as well, that brought me to the place of realizing who I was, and knowing that, when that happened, it just like the floodgates, things just really started revealing themselves. And I just saw a lot of people for who they were, and things in life for what they were. And I was like, it shouldn't be like that, but it revealed the world to me, because we shallow people real, real big. And so I was just like, that's crazy to see. And so it was just a lot of that. A lot of it was like, it was time for me to really step out and really just own myself, and to fully love myself. That's really what it was about. Really coming back to that place to say, I love myself. And if I love myself enough, I'm going to take care of myself to get to the best person I could
What
be,
you said.
healthy, physically, mentally, emotionally. That it became me going to therapy to help me a lot of times, because as an overthinking person, I had to admit, I need somebody to come in and help me get my thoughts together and work on me, because if you get in your head a lot, and it could take you down a rabbit hole of no return. And so it's a lot of
Mm-hmm.
just like, it's so many things of trying to get to your higher self. It's just not about, being spiritual. We have to say, okay, I may need a therapist. I may need to go to the gym. I may need to work on my physical.
Mm-hmm.
What are the things that, again, you have to really write yourself down on a piece of paper and tell yourself the ugly things, the good things, because we don't always talk to ourselves nicely. We don't always say the good things to ourselves. So it was one of those things where I had to really like strip myself down and be like, yo, this is you, and how you gonna fix it to get to your higher self, because you're never gonna get anywhere if you keep on doing these things to yourself.
Girl, what you said. Listen. Oh my God, you said a mouthful. And so definitely I can back that up by saying, just healing alone, and just making sure that we are healing from things such as our childhood traumas, our
Mm,
unhealthy relationships. That can be romantically, that can be platonically. An example, who you were with your past
mhm.
partners, plural, whatever it may look like for you. Also, too, not even romantically, but simple things as friendships, right? And I know a lot of times people get hurt with friend hurt. And I think a lot of people don't talk about it, but friend hurt can be one of the probably toughest hurts that you could probably ever live through. And thankfully, I have never been able to. I don't think I've lived through a friend hurt enough to just say, that it was a really detrimental experience. But, just from my experience of hearing others share stories, or, just listening to other people's stories from third parties, I can definitely say that I can see how that will fall in line. Just because this is someone that you've shared probably your whole life with up until whatever point that you all have established. And so, just being able to process and dissect, all of those things as you grow as a person, um, figuring out like, well, like where did things go left? That's something that takes time to process. And I do feel like, God allows things to happen for a reason. And I think that's something that you also have to process with him and figure out, like, why did things take place? But outside of that, in reality, it is something, a hard pill to swallow. And so, with just healing from different relationships, it could also be in the simple form of careers. Some people have to heal from careers because this could have been a thing that, you thought that was going to work out with you, but it absolutely didn't. And then, also going off of that, did God put you in that career, or did you put yourself in that career? And so
We
that's
dad gotta
something
make
for me
a choice.
that,
Yeah.
girl, when I tell you, I'm asking myself the same question, like right now at this present time, present day. I just want to let y'all out there know who's listening, whoever's listening on this platform, like, you are not alone. My sis is not alone. We've talked, and this is something that over time I would absolutely love to share. But I'm going through my own journey right now. So when everything unfolds for me, I'm going to share it with you because I just want to be open, honest, and transparent.
Yeah.
And the last thing I have to add with that too is, if you lack the healing process, you'll be accustomed to putting up and being guarded. You'll be blindsided with the things and the opportunities that may come into your way, and that can possibly be missing out on good people, y'all. Like, if you initially meet a person and you know they're good, like genuinely deep inside your heart, like that person is a good person. Some people may seize the opportunity because they're not healed. That could be with other people romantically you're getting to know. That could be friendships that you're forming. That could be mentors that you're trying to correlate with. Anything. So I just feel like you have to make sure that you are going through that process of um, getting to know who you are during the tough journey of healing. Because a lot of times people, I think a lot of times healing is so prevalent nowadays because it's just like heal, heal, heal. But I
Yes.
don't think a lot of people talk about the roughness of the healing process because it's tough, y'all. Very
And it's
tough.
never
I ain't gonna
ending
lie
though.
to you.
Healing is a never ending process. It's not a deadline on it. You can't say tomorrow, but I'm gonna give
Mhm.
myself a few months, I'm gonna be all right. No, because as soon as some trigger you, it's it's like it's over with. It's like, nah, I'm back at square one again. So it's just about having things to help, when you feel triggered by something. Healing is not a
Mhm.
overnight overnight thing. Something's always gonna need to trigger you. You're gonna be triggered by it, and so you have to really, 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 really find what it is that's gonna trigger you and figure out how you can catch it before it takes a hold of you. Because I, from
Absolutely.
my own personal experience with healing, it's like I had to realize it's never ending. It's all about how you respond to what's being thrown at you. And if you give it that fire, it's gonna take you down through there. So you just have to remember
Oof.
to, you know that it's never ending. It's gonna always be a journey. It's not a deadline on it, and it's about making the strides to know how to attack it when it's present itself.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So I think, my final question on this episode definitely to you would be, since we've talked about all of this, which has been so enlightening, how it, like, if you could share with anybody out there that's listening, tuning into us, how important is it for us to rediscover ourselves?
Ooh, okay. My favorite movie is Girls Trip. Okay, and so at the end, at the end of it, I'm not gonna get. I'm gonna get it mixed all the way up. I know I am, but at the end of it, she was trying to hide behind her books and all those other things, and she said in her little speech that it was power and rediscovery. And now that's so real to say because you get a new version of you. You get to find out the new you. You get to discover new things that you like. Life becomes a little more exciting to you when you're able to just explore and be in a new world of openness and allow yourself that space to be like, I'm like a kid again in a candy store. I'm here to get all my treats and little things, and I'm just, you're adding to yourself, but a better, healthier, new version of yourself. And so it's give yourself
Mm-hmm.
grace. It's enjoy the journey that comes with it. It's to be open minded. It's to be able to try new things. It's to be, again, gentle with yourself. That's all of this I say. Trying to re-encourage myself. Let's be honest,
Oh,
because
yes.
it is,
Same.
and it's just the journey in itself. Just know there's power there, and I had to learn again my voice. Me, I was one. People think I'm a very quiet person, but a little bit they know underneath all of this is a beast that sometimes
I
can
know
be a
that's
little bit.
right. Listen, that's why I'm just like,
But
I think even when I started this podcast, I'm like, girl, you call, like, you got a voice on you, because for the longest of time, I've never been this outspoken, right? And
yeah,
so if people know me from my past, they'll be like, oh, she was very soft spoken. Like,
yeah,
for me, I would be very observant, yes. But
yeah,
as far as outspoken with my words, no. But God changed that for me, because I'm like, listen, you gave me this voice. I can't neglect it. Like, I'm about to show out. I'm gonna show up and show out for you. And that's exactly what I'm doing. And I think, the people that you engage with each and every day, even if you don't even initially want to deal with them, or you have no knowledge of dealing with them, it's gonna happen.
yeah,
Like, it just presents itself, and
yeah,
it's something I really can't explain, but I feel like when God has gifted you with something, you'll know it, because it's something that doesn't look familiar than what you're comfortable with.
yeah,
And that's something we're gonna have to get into, like, in a different
yeah,
day, when it comes to being comfortable versus uncomfortable. And so I absolutely love it. And so, last thing I want
yeah.
to add on to, that healing process, that healing journey, when it comes to just rediscovering self, is that, one thing that I've learned, that once you've healed, like, once you know within your heart of hearts that you are self aware, of who you are as a person, one, you'll be able to really sit down with yourself and figure out that you can shake your head yes and say, yes, I've come into this new person. I've come into this person that other people may not see outside of myself. And so, with that, you also have to, you'll also be able to figure out, like, what you needed to heal from. Because once you've been able to identify on, like, what you needed to heal from, you'll be able to also be more vulnerable. You'll be able to share a little bit more insight of what's your life story or your testimony or whatever that looks like for you, when it comes to other people that you may engage with, when it comes to, you know, having commonalities like yourself. And so I feel like one thing I've learned, and this is what I've learned on TikTok, is one thing that I definitely learned is that everybody that we encounter, you know, we're always looking at a part of ourselves or a piece of ourselves that we once were or that we are in the present moment. And so once I've learned that and taken that away, it's nothing but truth, because, you know, anybody in my past, even if I don't associate with that person in the past, they were once me, and I can't take that away from me. And that's why I will never like hide my light of the good, the bad, or the ugly, because that's who I once was. And, you know, you just have to give yourself hope enough to know that people change and you grow and you learn new things. And so I think honestly that that's the most thrilling part of self-discovery, to be honest.
Yeah, we gotta learn how to give ourselves grace and give other people grace. We all have been there. We
Yes.
all learning the ropes of life. There's not a blueprint on what life looks like. Nobody. My favorite line to say is that we are imperfect people in an imperfect world. So I cannot judge you for what the things you've
Mm-hmm.
done. You can't judge me for what I've done, knowing that no sin is bigger than the other. Let's be real. So it's just different.
Let's
We
be
all have.
real, for real. Ain't no
But
sin greater than the
not
next.
perfect. Not
I feel
perfect.
like that's a. Oh, I'm sorry. I feel like I cut you off.
Uh-uh.
Oh yes, I was just gonna say, ain't no sin greater than the next. Although sometimes in life, you know, you can hear that, and I honestly just feel like it's discouraging to hear, because no one's perfect. No one lives in a perfect world, which is why I feel like, you know, God gave us grace. We have to learn how, like my sis said, like give yourself grace and give others grace as well. You know, when you're walking with yourself, because people mess up, you mess up. But you know, if you give your own self grace, how come you can't give somebody else grace? You know, and I'm not saying with every scenario, because different scenarios play itself or present itself to be different. But you know, once you've used discernment enough to figure out what is what, who is who, you'll be able to put the puzzle pieces together a lot better than how you probably initially thought things were.
Yep.
And
Yep.
so
It's
I
definitely
think
it's
that's all of
definitely
my
take.
questions that I've had for Germ. Germ, you got anything else to add to the podcast, this episode today?
Yeah, I was just gonna say something that I take and I say in my own YouTube channel is that I'm an everyday woman, trying to strive to make my own light in my own world, and I feel like that was something that hit heavy to me on this journey of rediscovery. Is that I'm the person I want to be. I'm my example. I am, everything that I want in a person. And it was like, because we could get caught up on so many times we see this person, that person, but we don't realize you just as special as they are. You just got to figure out how to tap into that to be the best version of yourself. And so knowing that rediscovery is just accepting who you are and the things that you truly love, and not allowing anybody to tell you differently in this part of your growing. Because if not, you have to realize I'm perfect just the way I am. And my biggest thing, if I don't like something, I'm going to change it. So it's just
What
about
you
loving on
said.
you and embracing who you are and the things that make you who you are, because you can't be anybody else. That person is them for them, and you have to learn how to be yourself. So discover yourself and the new things that you love about yourself, and just know you are enough. You are good enough for yourself, and you just have to fix the things that you may not like, because that's the real issue, and that's where the self-confidence and things come from. The lack of confidence come from is that when we feel like we lack something.
Mm-hmm.
You got a mind to read, you got a mind, you can move your body still, you can work out, whatever the issue is that you find that you don't like yourself. It's an easy fix for you to be comfortable in who you are.
Absolutely, 100%. And so I think the last thing that I have to add before we kind of close out everything on this episode is, like once you authentically know who you are, and what makes you unique as a person, you'll be able to fully be confident in who you are. You'll also be able to take ownership of the things that makes you you. And let me rewind and go back again. You'll be able to take ownership. Ownership, y'all. Ownership is being able to take control of the things that you know that makes you you. And nobody else can take that from you, because that's truly who your identity is. It's not, like I said before, it's not what someone else told you were good at. It's not something else that somebody told you were. Because a lot of times we all go into this narrative of, yeah, I'm good at this, maybe because my mama said it. And I'm going to take it back to your mama. Yes, I am. Because half the time it is those people close to us that make up these things for us, because that's what they see. But you also have to take a step back and be like, okay, what does God see? What do I see in myself? Once you've been on a journey, you've been through a process. And so, also too, outside of that is just being able to know who you are for yourself, and not having anybody to have a second opinion on that. Because one thing that I can definitely say is, I always used to look for another ear. Like, I always used to look for maybe a second ear or a second opinion of, well, what do you think about this? Or, well, what you think I should say? Because I feel like you're not fully walking in you. And that's just an indicator. It should be a red flag indicator to say, maybe I need to do some more work. Maybe I need to do some more self-discovery just to figure out, like, okay, maybe I'm not fully operating into who I am 100%. I'm probably 95%, 99.9%, but you need that extra 0.1% to make sure that you're fully confident in who you are as a person. And so, y'all, I got it on my paper, last things last on here, and I have to say it, right? This is a quote that I made up, while I was writing my notes out. And I'm going to say it to y'all. I wouldn't tell you unless I had to tell myself first. I'm going to say it again. I wouldn't tell you unless I had to tell myself first. And so I just want y'all to know that this is the conclusion of our episode. And I just hope that this finds somebody, reaches somebody, and empowers somebody if it does. And per usual, spreading love and light. And I also want to thank my special guest, my good sis, Miss Germoni McCray, for joining me today on, the episode, the topic of rediscovering self. And I think that's all we have, y'all. You got something else to say, Germ?
No, thank you for having me. It was such a pleasure. I really enjoyed it. It was great.
You are so very welcome. And y'all, this ain't gonna be her first time on here. I'm just letting y'all know that now, because this is my girl and she brings so much light and joy to the room as well. And so moving forward, with all of our other guests and myself as well, we want to just welcome you into a new light, into rediscovering self, rediscovering the journey of, just reaching your best self, your authentic self, your higher self, whatever you want to call it. So however this fits into your lifestyle, we love y'all. I love you, Germ. Thank you for